welcome back to the show. Hazel here, the Wealth Whisperer at your service. I hope you've had a really great week since you last listened in. Today's show is inspired by my husband, who has a really good saying, and he loves to mention this when he works with new clients, and that is the phrase, "You can only spend it once." It's very simple, isn't it? You can only spend it once. So we're going to really explore the idea of this and how you can really start to notice where your money goes. Okay, it's obvious really, but how often do you actually stop to take notice of where your money is going? When you ask yourself the question, what do you want your money to do for you? And you really give that some thought, it can actually create quite a dichotomy inside of you, because you often find that your answers will give you an insight into an internal conflict that's going on inside of you and perhaps pulling you in different directions. And the awareness, when you bring awareness to this internal conflict, you can start to make more conscious decisions about where you spend your cash, your hard-earned cash, whether they're dollars, pounds, euros, yen, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's hard-earned, right? So oftentimes you may be looking for that quick fix, i.e. spending your money on coffee out with a friend or meals out with your loved ones, perhaps a mini break or clothes, gadgets, new car, holidays, etc., etc. The list can be endless. And of course, those things are important for your quality of life, and they are important for you to do sometimes. But it all depends on the context of the future you as well. Thinking about your future and where you want to be. Because other times you'll be thinking about how you can afford the big things in future, like a car, a home, a holiday, a wedding, afford to have children, I don't know, whatever it is, afford to be able to look after yourself in your retirement years, or how you could break free from the rat race of life. I mean, there are lots of different big things that you can be thinking of. And obviously, this is where the differing feelings and internal desires can occur when you're thinking, you know, oh, I'd like to go out for this or that and go and do this, that and the other. But you spend money when you do that. Your money literally goes out of the window. And whilst you might enjoy yourself doing the instant gratification piece, there is a lot to be said for the delayed gratification piece. So let's take a little bit of an exploration into a really simple idea and a simple example. Okay, think about this. As soon as your money leaves your pocket or bank account, it's gone, never to be seen again, unless you have invested it consciously. You've thought about where it's actually going. And in that case, you're not spending it, it's not gone. You've put it somewhere in order for it to grow. Okay, so let's take a really, really simple example. And that example is going to be what many, many, many people do each and every single day that they particularly go out to work, but also at the weekends as well. And that is to grab a quick cuppa on the way to work. Now, let's face it, these days, I mean, it's insane, right? That we can go into one of the big brand coffee shops or even a little independent these days. I mean, a little independent, you're probably talking £3.50, £4 in the UK. I don't know what it's like elsewhere in the world, but coffee seems to be extraordinarily expensive these days. Most of the big brand places, you're talking £4.50, £5 for a cup of coffee. So that blows my mind. And yes, I do go out for coffees occasionally, but certainly not every day, and sometimes not even every week. I have a very nice coffee making machine at home, thank you very much. And that, if you add it up, it equates to £25 a week, doesn't it? £5 a day, £25 a week. of your hard-earned cash just going on a quick cuppa before you go to work. Now, if you add that up over the year, that adds up to £1,300. Okay, that's not insignificant. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's also not insignificant. Now, if you were to apply the principle that I shared a few weeks ago, called pound cost averaging, into some sort of investment vehicle that could make you 10% a year, okay, interest of 10% a year, and you were to do this consistently over 10 years, right? So that's £25 a week, every week, going in and making you 10% a year, and you do that for 10 years. Do you know how much you'd have at the end of the 10 years? I'm going to tell you because it's quite a tricky one to work out. It's about £20,000. I mean, what? Just by not having that quick cup of coffee before work, or not taking your own, I mean, you could take your own cup of coffee in and not go and buy that cup of coffee. I mean, that's pretty insane, right? £20,000 over 10 years. And if you were to calculate the interest monthly, not annually, and compound it monthly, obviously not 10% per month, 10% over the year, but compounded on a monthly basis, then it would actually be closer to £22,250. So an extra bit of money because the interest is being taken account of every month, not just every year. So that's crazy. I mean, if you took it a step further and you said to yourself, okay, instead of buying lunch out each day, grabbing a sandwich and a drink and a cake or a packet of crisps or a salad or whatever it is that you grab, and spending £10 each day, perhaps on your lunch, then you could put that £10 away, and that's £50 a week. So you're talking double the amount. So that's £44,500 over 10 years. If you combined those two, we're talking over £66,000 for the cup of coffee and the lunch that you don't buy out each day. £66,000 compounded at 10% a year. Okay, now we're talking serious figures, aren't we? Now we're talking serious funds. And this is particularly important for the youngsters of today, because a lot of youngsters think about, the quick fix, the instant gratification. Just grab that quickly, and don't understand the implications and the consequences that this can bring about for their future self. So if you can just grasp this idea, maybe share it, share this episode with somebody that you know who is, of the younger generation, maybe your younger generation yourself, or you could share it with your friends, or you're listening in and you think, my children could really benefit from listening to this, then please do share it, because it is just such a mind-blowing idea. So just based on those two examples alone, think about what else you could save and how else you could deploy those funds instead. The mind literally boggles when you actually apply yourself to these principles, or this principle, I should say. And of course, if you need any help on this front, you know where to come, right? Just click on the link below and it'll take you to us, and it will, we'll be able to share with you information about how you can really ramp up your financial future without sacrificing the now, of course. We want you to enjoy yourselves, and equally, I want to make sure that you have whatever it is that you really want from your hard-earned cash in the future as well. So, for example, going back to, when we were younger, we literally put everything into the first property we ever bought. Everything. I mean, we forewent coffees and meals out. We had the very occasional one, literally very occasional. We hardly had any holidays. I mean, I think we had a week-long holiday once in our early 20s. We didn't really go for car upgrades. We literally found our first ever motor together, and it was a beaten up old Ford Fiesta on the side of the road with a sign up, and it was £150. We bought our first car for £150, and we travelled around in that for a good couple of years. Fortunately, my husband was a very good home mechanic, and he did a lot of bits and pieces on it himself. But it stood us in good stead, and it meant that we didn't have to spend a fortune on cars or repairs on cars and things like that. It saved us a small fortune and enabled us to do what we wanted to do, because very soon into our relationship, a few years into our relationship, we knew that we were headed in the same direction. We knew that our goals were aligned in the sense that we wanted to be financially independent, not have to work. And it's flipping amazing, because to be quite honest with you, I don't quite know how we did it. We were barely earning the national average wage when each of us was working. And my husband was working when I was a student, and then I was working when he was a student. And for like a decade, we didn't have very much money yet, because of the delayed gratification, because of putting our money into vehicles which enabled our cash to grow. Property, stocks and shares we started to work with, and then property again. It has made all the difference for our future selves, which are now, right? So by investing your money rather than spending your money, your future financial potential grows exponentially, and we could never have achieved what we have without applying the principle of delayed gratification and literally watching almost every penny in the early days. It has paid us dividends time and time again over the last, 15 years or so, that we've been benefiting from all the hard yards we put in at the early stages. And we didn't come from wealthy backgrounds. We didn't learn this stuff. The only stuff we learned was how to save money. And my parents were extremely, as I've mentioned before, keen for us to get into property. Property stood them always in good stead, and it that we caught the bug from them on that front. So we weren't from wealthy backgrounds. We just learned some basic principles and then just didn't spend a lot on ourselves at the time. But that has made a huge difference to our lives now. What do you want your money to do for you? If you need help, you know where to come. It's the-freedom-club.com. Take care. I'll see you on the next episode.